Look at the shared bicycles on the sidewalk, they are parked in a mess. The baskets and seats of these bicycles are filled with rental advertisements that the landlord only rents. Is the rental market in Hangzhou really so difficult? The property market in Hangzhou has come to a dead silence, and the decline in the property market is far beyond people's imagination. The price of second-hand housing has fallen sharply, and no one cares about it. The trend of price collapse is unstoppable, and the rental market has also come to a standstill. The sharp drop in rent has made it difficult to attract new tenants. This seems to mean that the black swan incident in the Hangzhou property market has quietly arrived. And under this, more horrifying details are also emerging. House prices have plummeted by 30%, and now rents have also begun to decline sharply, falling by a full 13%. All these seem to indicate an astonishing fact that the bubble in Hangzhou's property market has not only burst, but the property market is actually on the verge of collapse. A 30% plunge in house prices undoubtedly means that developers, banks and even all home buyers will face huge losses and even systemic risks. The 13% decline in rents will also make it impossible for landlords to make a living. When the rent is not enough to pay the mortgage, the landlords will no longer face simple losses, but the threat of bankruptcy and survival. All this seems to indicate a cruel fact that the crisis in the Hangzhou property market has far exceeded anyone's imagination. And it is likely to have evolved into a social and systemic crisis. The second-hand housing market in Hangzhou seems to have finally ushered in a period of overall downturn. According to recent transaction data, the prices of second-hand houses in many popular communities have fallen sharply. In the current second-hand housing transaction market, the prices of multiple second-hand housing communities in the Uyghur sector have begun to show a downward trend. The current listing price of the EFC community has dropped to an astonishing 31,000 to 32,000 yuan per square meter, which has made many homeowners despair. What is even more surprising is that even in Haiyang Tianjin community, which is closer to Ali's headquarters, the house prices have dropped to about 37,000 to 38,000 yuan per square meter. And one of the houses has been reduced by 90% since last year. So much, it made all the owners feel like a knife was piercing their hearts. Even a house of 88.8 square meters has dropped from 4.5 million last year to a distressing 3.58 million. Faced with such a brutal market downturn, the owners seem to have fallen into unprecedented despair. EFC community, as the leader among luxury houses in Hangzhou, was once a hot investment treasure. In 2021, the price of second-hand housing in the EFC community will soar to 60,000 yuan per square meter in just a few months. Will continue to soar. However, the good times don't last long. Now the price of second-hand houses in EFC community has dropped by 30% from the high point, and the lowest unit price has even dropped to 31,000 yuan per square meter. This is undoubtedly a shocking figure. For those owners who bought EFC at a high point, the current 30% drop is undoubtedly an unacceptable fact. Our real estate has depreciated by 30%. Which means that our investment of millions or even tens of millions has probably shrunk by 1/3. This loss of assets is undoubtedly a huge blow to many people. The sluggish situation in Hangzhou's second-hand housing market in May did not seem to show any improvement. According to the latest data, the transaction volume of second-hand housing in Hangzhou in May was 6,998 sets, down again from 7,264 sets in April. This certainly means that the downturn in Hangzhou's second-hand housing market may be deepening, and we seem to be in the process of continuing a double-digit decline. This is already the second month's sharp decline after the second-hand housing transaction volume fell by 38% in April. This continuous decline undoubtedly proves that the downturn in Hangzhou's second-hand housing market may be far from bottoming out. In Hangzhou's real estate market, under the double blow of the epidemic and internet layoffs, housing prices are falling at an accelerated rate, and the speed and magnitude of the decline seem to have exceeded people's expectations. In addition to the future science and technology city, housing prices in many other communities also experienced a relatively large decline. It is understood that last week, Jinqiao Jiangnan Garden in Shaoshan Science and Technology City listed a house of 103 square meters, with a total price of only 3.1 million yuan. Which means that its unit price was as low as 30,000 yuan per square meter. The average price of high-rise houses in the past reached 28,500 yuan per square meter, which will undoubtedly cause the owners of the transaction to face large losses. In Zhaohui District 7, located in the center of Hangzhou, the total price of a house with an area of about 48 square meters is only 1.2 million yuan, equivalent to a unit price of only 25,000 yuan per square meter. This is undoubtedly an extremely low price, which seems to indicate that the real estate market in Hangzhou may have affected all levels and communities. The housing market in Hangzhou's Binjiang district seems to have not been spared either. It is understood that the prices of many houses in this area have fallen sharply, especially those that are just in demand. Taking an 89 square meter house in a community in Binjiang district as an example, its transaction price in the second half of last year was about 5.8 million yuan, equivalent to a unit price of 65,000 yuan per square meter. However, the transaction price of houses of the same type this year is less than 5 million yuan, which means that the owners' holding costs and asset appreciation in the past 6 months have all been wasted, and the loss has reached nearly 1 million yuan. In the case of oversupply of second-hand housing in Hangzhou, exchanging price for quantity seems to be the only way out for many landlords, in order to realize as soon as possible. The price of second-hand housing is also continuing to fall, and the decline in housing prices in old residential areas is particularly alarming. According to statistics, the housing prices of 30% of just-needed communities have plummeted to the level of 2017, which means that the growth of housing prices in these communities in the past 3 years has disappeared. And the asset appreciation of homeowners in the past 3 years has also disappeared. No trace. What is even more worrying is that the rate of decline in house prices seems to be continuing to accelerate. If the decline continues, house prices in these communities are likely to fall further below the level in 2017, which will undoubtedly make owners face more serious asset shrinkage. In the case of continuous sluggish transaction volume, the decline in housing prices seems to be accelerating, and owners can only sell their houses as soon as possible through continuous decline. And the continued decline in prices has further exacerbated buyers' expectations of future home prices, which seems to have created a vicious cycle, with depressed transaction volumes leading to lower prices. The decline in housing prices has in turn deepened the market downturn, which undoubtedly deepened the crisis in the entire second-hand housing market. The plummet of Hangzhou's housing market seems to have just begun. In the next few months, housing prices may fall further, with fewer pending listings and a sharp drop in transaction volume. This will undoubtedly make the crisis in the second-hand housing market worse.